has introduced some hot new toys. But have things gone a bit too far? This evening, Ken Shockley wraps up a special report on video mania.
Hey, do you feel that? Yeah, you do. Of course you do, actually. When you were younger. Much younger. You couldn't really come up with the words to describe it. Nor did you really want to, right? Quickly close the TV off, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, you didn't really know what to make of it. It's something, isn't it? Equal parts unsettling and exhilarating. Almost intoxicating. Perhaps we weren't meant to savor it as much as we did. Yet, here we are, captivated, spellbound. And clearly, that fascination hasn't faded one bit. At the heart of it all, what is life without a spark of intrigue? Really, what is it? Do we even notice? We're drawn to mysteries, captivated by the unknown. And some might say that peeling back the layers risks dulling the magic. Yet, isn't it irresistible? Don't we share this emotion? And in the end, isn't it thrilling to chase the very emotions we conjure for ourselves? We have heard all about it before. Well, even if we haven't, we still have seen it, heard it, felt it even, as concerning as that might sound. Be it movies, music, or paintings even. What we have in front of us, if we were to call it by a name, would be Liminality. The quality of ambiguity or distress that occurs in the middle stage of a rite or passage. While this definition is elegant, it may be too broad and vague, leaving few with a truly clear understanding of its essence. More importantly, it diminishes the resonance that should echo when we encounter this phenomenon. But rest assured, this is no accident. Like fire, it may once have been a natural occurrence, but now it has become a deliberate tool, a powerful one at that. If anything, it's a story of subtlety, one that, as luck would have it, has now perhaps been heavily diluted, if not entirely lost. Alas, such an outcome is to be expected. In an age of captivating, pre-recorded media and video games, now more widespread than ever, it's only natural that countless artistic minds drawn to this powerful tool choose to express it in their own distinct and unique ways. However, with such extensive use, the very concept of liminality has arguably been distorted, or perhaps it has simply evolved. It's not for anyone to say with certainty, but it does invite contemplation. In our eagerness to capture that feeling, are we at risk of losing its essence? Like ancient rites once held in reverence, was liminality ever meant to be encountered casually or endlessly reproduced? In its overexposure, something vital and profound risks slipping through our fingers. A ghostly sense of transition, stripped of its mystery, left echoing in the rather hollow spaces we create. Questions ultimately arise. What was it like in the beginning? Where was it originally found? Why was it there? Where is it now? And where is it headed? As we continue to engage with it, are we finding meaning or simply indulging a longing for something beyond the tangible? It's intriguing to consider that the very concept of liminality, and even the term itself, was coined merely to satisfy the linguistic needs of anthropologist Arnold van Gennep. Van Gennep was a 19th century German-French scholar, studied in philosophy, linguistics, and even obscure and mystifying cultures and religions across the wider world. In his 1909 book, The Rites of Passage, written in his 30s, Van Gennep, driven by immense academic curiosity and a desire for cultural documentation and sociological innovation, set out to create and explore a framework for the stages involved in pivotal rites. This outlines Van Gennep's distinct arrangement of the human social experience in a universal and all-encompassing manner. He aimed to provide a systemic framework for understanding how societies organize and make sense of significant life events within the context of their culture. From theological ceremonies to the coming of age of a young person, his work delves deeply, dissecting various aspects of human life, both in his time and in ours. The birth rites, the transition from unborn to breathing, yet not quite into the fold yet, not a part of the community due to certain awaiting liturgies. Initiation rites from practices dating back hundreds of years for Aboriginal groups, African tribes, or Asian civilizations to more occult or ominous enactments. Funerary rites, rituals that play an essential role in guiding the soul's journey beyond life, marking the transition from this world to whatever lies beyond, all in adherence to these sacred traditions. Life and afterlife, consciousness and the hereafter. Zeros and ones. We rarely think of what lies in between. The innocents, caught in the crossfire of wars, the souls in limbo. Van Gennep was among the first to pose this exact question. What of those who are neither fully alive nor truly dead? It opens up a discussion about a moment in time and space where we neither plan nor wish to linger. It is simply a transitional stage existing only as a pseudo-mathematical consequence. That said, as melodramatic as it may sound, even though it sparks fascination and raises countless questions about that in-between space, it wasn't meant to be eerie or disturbing. As alien as it may seem, it's still part of life, isn't it? Maybe that's precisely what makes it so sinister. Perhaps it's not just the in-between that unsettles us, but the very act of confronting something that resists definition, something that challenges the boundaries we so carefully construct around life and death, growth and decay, creation and destruction. After all, we are creatures of structure, of narrative, and when faced with the unknown, something that refuses to fit neatly within our frameworks, our instinct is to either avoid or tame it. We long to categorize, to name it, to make it ours, but liminality slips through our fingers, reminding us that some transitions can never be fully understood nor controlled. The dread we feel is only because we find ourselves trapped in something, somewhere, that shouldn't be prolonged. In life, in death, or in our art, we seek to escape it, because it perplexes us. Liminal spaces exist in a curve. It's not just a static space, but rather the stages in between that can take and expose multiple forms that are truly only limited by the nature of the cultural object or experience itself. As a scholarly expression or label, it certainly brought traction to itself, but this conversation we just started didn't open up with the aim of chatting about sociopolitical issues ingrained in societal rituals and practices dating back centuries. No, it's art we're talking about, as it always is, and it's through art that Liminality truly stepped into the spotlight. As art evolved and transformed over the years, new ways to touch the human heart and spirit emerged, while simultaneously, old ones were reintroduced in a new light. And it took countless years for Liminality to be categorized and labeled. But instances where it peeked through the curtains had manifested for years now. Being an experience deeply rooted in life, it only makes sense that some of its most powerful uses emerge in forms that imitate life itself. Computerized video games.
Whatever you thought about video games before, set it aside, try it, it's a whole new experience.
Millions of kids already know what they want for Christmas, a new video game system called Nintendo 64.
With Sony PlayStation. Now see the outstanding technical capabilities of Sony's advanced video game system.
Customers lined up for hours waiting to get one. Nintendo sold 300,000 machines that first day.
From the weak and fragile systems of old to the meticulous and intricate modus operandi of new. Even if unknown for a particular time or for particular people, it still was there, lurking, waiting for it to be further explored and understood. From being chased in the dark to fighting for survival, it's fascinating to consider that being truly, utterly, inconceivably alone, wedged between two voids, is one of the purest forms of chaos and horror the human mind can fathom. It's as if we're hardwired to instinctively fear and shrink from the sight of something that isn't meant to exist, or at least not meant to exist perpetually. Here I read about the uncanny valley, a phenomenon described in a simple Japanese essay titled Bukimi no Tani Gensho. It explores the human tendency to feel unease towards beings or even inanimate objects that appear almost, but not quite, real. There are many similarities between these two concepts, sparking discussions about the human mind's natural response to this visual phenomena. In truth, nothing propelled it further than the invention of the internet. After all, how could word of mouth ever compete with the reach of global digital communication? As people, consumers and artists alike flocked to grasp these newly resurfaced ideas, countless interpretations and applications soon followed. The rather swift rise in Liminality's popularity stemmed from a genuine appreciation for the distinct and powerful emotions evoked by tools such as these. And it's equally important to note that quality implementation emerges when only driven by formidable creative skill and vision. Without a skilled hand to guide it, the concept risks falling flat, losing the very depth and nuance that give it power. As with most things in life, and especially in art, when something becomes popular or evokes an easy response from the audience, the creator's energy often becomes focused on exploiting that appeal. Most often than not, sadly, that leaves the artistic integrity of the product utterly compromised. But when done masterfully, you would be surprised to realize what kind of sensations your mind could conjure up. I, and most likely you as well, can recall feelings of being lost and a desperate need to escape from scenes like these. As painful as those moments might have felt to our younger selves, they remain oddly cherished memories, don't they? They convey the message, reinforcing the mindset that everything surrounding them was carefully crafted to be forever sustained. It surely left a strong impression upon us. We obviously didn't know about Liminality or any kind of academic scholar, be they French, German or Japanese. No uncanny valley back in those N64 or PS2 days, when bits and polygons and 4 controller ports were the name of the game and everything one would care about. Honestly, who cared about labels or psychological concepts? It was scary and unsettling, and that was enough. It connected us, and it continued to do so. It was a social experience, a bonding moment for those of us fortunate enough to encounter it in our own unique ways. Many of these people grew up with this ingrained fascination that ultimately and likely spilled over and advanced the wheel of art in the space that they occupied. As trivial or insignificant as a tape, a video, or the contents of the World Wide Web might seem, the countless people who encounter this compelling work end up carrying impressions that resonate throughout their creative lives. It is through these collective memories that individuals draw inspiration from when attempting to recapture that same exact magic. It's fascinating yet equally important to recognize that much of modern art, regardless of medium, derives from previous executions. It is perhaps then a shame and a mishap that the term and effect of this state of being are so often misrepresented nowadays. In this vast landscape we all navigate, it's rather easy to miss a step or two as we find ourselves on unfamiliar shores. Leading up to the modern era, whether through mainstream video or the wonders of the internet, the scariest thing one could face was the monster. Whether a silent killer, a titanic abomination, an otherworldly leviathan, or an eldritch deity. To face the staff of nightmares was the final step, the punchline, the meaning behind the process. It's one thing to hear a scary scrape in the distance, and another to come in contact to all that a night withholds. It is a promise we have come to expect. We set out on these journeys for a variety of reasons, but at the end of the day, while we try to accomplish our goals, something is there to deter us. Compared to a demon, how frightening, how maddening, how distressing and troubling can 4 or more wolves be? Well, turns out, quite a bit. Liminality, just as the color red isn't necessarily scary, it becomes scary when utilized in a very specific way. How much power does it hold? Is red the scariest thing someone can fathom? Maybe not. Yet again, how often is it taken to its extreme? Can I unsettle you with the color red? Maybe. Yet again, maybe not. But what if I hypothetically could? Would it be wise to claim that red is as scary as a demon? What if I frightened you as much as somebody else frightened you with a demon? What if both instances were so comparable that the emotional response was measured the same, on a scale? I mean, I am reminded of that funny good old saying that goes, what's heavier, a kilogram of steel or a kilogram of feathers? Isn't it beautiful, perhaps in a twisted way, when someone uses an unorthodox method to achieve the same result? Especially in art, don't you think? I reckon it at least garners appreciation. These tools and approaches aren't meant to be merely supplementary. Doing so undermines their true purpose. So then, why adjoin a demon? If we are strong enough, if we are creative enough, if we are daring enough, why is red not enough? Liminality is a tool after all. Why not use it to paint a picture scarier than the demon lurking behind it? doesn't it trivialize and make a gimmick out of the groundwork that is being established? It spits at the face of boldness for tropes not meant for it. It doesn't start and definitely doesn't end with a singularity. This kind of predicament can be seen everywhere where there is compromise and complacency. Ultimately, the end result and final product should revel in its foundation, not be supplemented with something that detracts from it. When you want to highlight a signature flavor in a dish, you naturally don't want it diluted by anything else. You need to take pride in it as you try your best to showcase it, build upon it, and stay true to its roots, to its character. Apples are fantastic, but if my candy is to be of orange, why do I mostly taste apple? Going above and beyond for the surprise, admiration, and fulfillment for that which we have created, staying true to the purpose we gave it as its creators. It is a testament to our skill, our artistry, our innovation, qualities all worthwhile to say the least, yet people think twice before engaging with them. It is a missed opportunity to take pride in moving something, anything, forwards. There are trends and swings, but they all have to begin somewhere. We applaud those who dared and wait eagerly for those still to try. In the halls of fury and unnatural findings, the era of the 90s reverberates through it all. An era of exploration through the raw, untamed medium of video games, where boundaries weren't just broken, but rather often not there at all. Step back with me. Grab me by the shoulder as I lead you to a space not bound by rules of time or reason. An age of clunky pixels and primitive polygons, of cartridges and CD-ROMs, where the worlds within were only very partially defined. Let's take a quick look around the corner. Here, hidden corridors and empty hallways stretch out into shadows, frozen in time, save for the occasional flickering or static lights. We find ourselves wandering through fog-blanketed streets, deserted stations and dreamlike landscapes, with only a hazy notion of what lies beyond. We, like the game itself, rest in an eternal and quiet limbo, left to the hum of our screens, the murky streets of Silent Hill, the endless looping corridors of GoldenEye, the uncanny world beyond spirals, warping hills and crevices. Each scene reminiscent of a liminal space in its own right, suspended between worlds. There exists a place that hangs on the edge of time, stuck between one moment and what little chatted, gloomy future patiently awaits ahead. A place where people move as if in a trance, repeating the same actions over and over again, in a strange rhythm, as the dread hangs heavy in the air. Contrastingly to the epic and dramatic past of Hyrule and its absolute sun-blessed future, the land of Termina lays suspended in time as it rusts and decays and breaks apart in a loopy, overwrought manner. You aren't the destined hero of prophecy to save the world. The power you once held, the courage you once displayed, now they feel rather empty, caged alongside you, echoing the trapped spirits of Termina's people. You roam this place as they do, relating to them, feeling what they feel, burdened by the futility of your own actions, just as they are. This world feels vast, almost more alive than you yourself. A thin, porous reality where fleeting, quiet spaces bear a gravity beyond their size, heavy with meaning as they linger in this sliver of time you find yourself in. And you are always being watched, distant enough to perhaps feel negligible, but close enough to cast an ever-present shadow that follows you wherever you may go. This moon is no passive fixture of the sky. It's a call to act, to bring the entrapped land of Majora's Mask into tomorrow. It's a reminder of the cage that remains, that time is stagnant still. You, or perhaps the Skull Kid, will be the one to bend and break the bars of this cage, opening a path forward to either distraction or salvation. It's your place in all of this to act, when all others remain bound. From Ikana Valley to the swamp, from Snowhead to Great Bay, and Clocktown at the heart, the people live their lives in an endless cycle, unaware or unable to believe in the danger above. They float atop their sorrows, clinging to worn beliefs, helpless to change their fate, no matter how much they want to or try. The player is called to act as a firm guide, seeking the fears, hopes, and hidden afflictions of a world doomed to end, so that you can perhaps bring peace and resolution into their hearts through the passage of time. It's on these pillars that the game rests upon, and is a product of the time as it is of its arduous development by strained, overburdened, and creatively ingenious people. The only way to everlastingly break free yourself and everyone else from this state of inaction is to guide the forces of the world to assist you towards achieving that elusive freedom. Set against the backdrop that fuses the mundane and the bizarre, Earthbound immerses you in a whimsical yet disconcerting world. Towns filled with talking animals, peculiar enemies, and eccentric characters create a dreamlike landscape where reality is not as it seems. This otherworldly space mirrors the feelings of uncertainty that accompany the journey from the innocence of childhood into the complexities of adulthood. Moments of levity quickly dissolve into introspective undertones as the familiar comforts of childhood begin to fray at the edges. The cheerful suburbs hide darker realities, echoing the hidden anxieties of adolescence. Earthbound masterfully juxtaposes playful interactions with profound questions, illustrating the delicate balance between wonder and the weight of newfound responsibilities. An experience steeped in melancholy and surprise, even though it persists for what only might seem like a second, talks about the crossroads of one's life, our life. It constitutes a poignant exploration of life's uncertainties, played by a lot of people in that particular vulnerable state of time. It masterfully navigates the delicate balance between whimsy and unease, crafting a narrative that somehow weaves truly eerie imagery, while ditching the mundane tropes of horror. All this while the art employs a surreal palette of vibrant colors and quirky characters that often juxtapose with the underlying themes of loneliness, loss, and the passage of time, as always. Moments of discomfort emerge not through overt horror, but rather through the subtle suggestion of something amiss, like the unsettling presence of the very real existential dread lurking beneath the surface of everyday life. This interplay between lightheartedness and darker undertones allows the time spent to evoke a sense of nostalgia and reflection, encouraging players to confront the shadows that linger just beyond arm's reach, all without relying on anything outside the depths of their own mind to instill fear. In today's digital landscape, there exists a strange kind of echo, a new frontier where the familiar fades into the unknown. The internet, vast and silent, offers spaces that feel more like way stations than destinations, places that linger on the edges of connection and isolation, as weird as that may sound. These are realms that people enter, not to stay but to pass through, to pause in moments of introspection. Here, in this quiet and sprawling void, the concept of liminality finds a new, peculiar form, a kind of virtual twilight. There is something haunting about the forgotten corners of the early internet, a ghostly stillness that clings to those abandoned websites from the early 2000s, left to drift aimlessly in the digital ether. Once alive with purpose, activity and community, these pages now feel like artifacts lost in time, frozen in the web's early years. Neon-colored text, grainy images and primitive layouts linger like remnants of another era, quietly decaying as the digital world advances without them. What once held purpose now sits as a nostalgia-infested call to a past remembered for its wackiness and distinct social backdrop. These sites, untouched and unseen, exist in a liminal space of their own, a peculiar in-between where they are neither deleted nor updated, neither relevant nor truly forgotten or lost. These deserted pages tell stories of a different internet, one that was simpler, perhaps more hopeful, and definitely more personal. They remind us of a time when websites weren't polished or professional in any matter, but rather raw, filled with the ambitions, dreams, hobbies, and quirks of everyday people. Their presence lies unchanging as they invoke strong emotions from within us. Even as wanderers of the digital landscape, we can relate to the people that came before us as we trace their whimsy. As it happens, their outlook of this mad, ever-widening world we all dwell in stays true and relevant even in this day and age. Designers weave together sounds and images that seem as if they were pulled straight from the recesses of a half-remembered dream. The hum of an old television, the quiet hiss of static, the texture of pixelated graphics, and washed-out colors. It all invokes a time when the digital tools, products, and spaces were much more unrefined and crude in their design. They remind us of late nights spent exploring a darker, quieter corner of the internet, where sights and sounds held mysteries not delivered for instant gratification, but waiting to be discovered and pieced together, for better or for worse. There was no grand plan, just the eccentricities of individuals like you and me. It is absolutely a marvel to behold how the fabric separating us from the understanding of so many emotions tears apart, unleashing a rush of wonder. It takes true ingenuity to stand against the giants of the entertainment industry, massive teams of talented people, by simply maximizing the potential of the few tools at our disposal. When liminality gets distilled down to its core form and not confused with other phenomena, such as remophobia, equally eccentric and unique in its own right, the stage seems to widen, revealing a new array of set pieces now fully at play. In spite of that, liminality, when it emerges in media, demands solitude. It thrives in empty spaces and quiet pauses, reveling in the uneasy silence that other tropes threaten to shatter. It is an elusive presence, one that resists clutter and despises distraction. It wants you to feel its emptiness, its strange in-between nature, without the comfort of familiar archetypes or predictable threats. It desires a hushed reverence, an audience willing to stand at the edge of understanding without being pulled back by any comforting hand. Even in a supposedly threatening state, even the most nasty of ghouls and monsters can lie within the premises of a comfortable space for the viewer, if they have been exposed to it long enough. To introduce other tropes is to betray its essence, to expose the unseen with needless explanation. Liminality, when properly conjured, prefers to haunt in subtlety, in moments that linger just out of sight. It thrives in isolation, where the weight of its quiet, unresolved threat can be fully felt, pressing down on you until you're left alone with nothing but the feeling that you've stepped somewhere you never truly belonged. Sometimes, as they say, less is more, and in this case, with more, you lose that which you set out in search for in the first place. The future of liminality in the digital space holds a strange promise. As we move forward, technology pushes us towards ever more immersive worlds, yet these worlds seem to echo the feeling of liminality, almost as if they yearn to be something more than they are. In a weird turn of events, it seems that when liminality invites itself into media, it contrasts and most often than not clashes with everything else present, either on a creative level or even the narrative one. But the beauty and horror of it doesn't go unnoticed. Creators have shown willingness to put it on the forefront, everything else be damned. They cater to it and make sure it shines through brightly and takes center stage. They invoke feelings that truly disturb the audience in a way that is not disgusting nor vile. They unearth ideas, fears and beliefs that already dwelled within the mind of the viewer. They manage to brew the most pure form of art one can give. It's actually easy to imagine a world where the internet itself feels like one large liminal space, with digital landscapes that respond to our every move but remain just out of reach, never fully familiar yet never quite alien either. As augmented reality and virtual spaces grow and flourish, these places might resemble our world, but with the subtle, off-kilter feeling that liminality brings, where even the smallest details seem to whisper, leaving us with a sense of quiet wonder and unresolved questions. And this is exactly how this artistic tool is meant to be used, to raise questions, to inspire wonder as the mind travels through unfamiliar territory. The most hopeful side of this evolution is that it invites you to pause. In an age where the digital is often fast, loud and demanding, these all too new for many experiences offer something unusual, room for introspection, a breath amid the endless scroll of everyday life. They might offer us places to simply roam, to feel small, to explore without purpose, to embrace the unknown. The future of liminality and all which is familiar to it in digital media may not be vibrant or overt, but that's its beauty. It's the quiet, uncanny reminder that even in a world hurtling forward, there will always be places to linger on the edges, to find meaning in the spaces that ask us simply to be.
My dreams are as worthless as tin to me. Without you, life will never begin to be. So love me as I love you in my reverie. Make my dream a reality. Let this